The remaining teams, all four, all have really good offensive lines. Do you have their Pro Football Focus ranks?
Yeah, excuse me. Eagles are number 1. The Bills are number 5. Chiefs are number 7, and the Commanders are number 10. So all of them top 10.
That's really interesting. I think it's pretty clear that. So that's 4 things. I mean, that's 2 things. The dual threat quarterback, the guy who can sort of not only buy time and get away from pressure, but be part of the run game, enhance the run game if necessary, and a great offensive line that gives the guy as many unpressured dropbacks as possible. Because we all know a quarterback's passer rating is going to be way, way higher when he's unpressured.
It's almost like, here's some groundbreaking stuff here. It's almost like the quarterback and the offensive line are the 2 most important positions on the team.
It's almost like that.
I don't know if you guys have heard that before, but maybe I'm just sharing this with you. No, I'm just being an asshole. It's just because it pisses me off when like Kyle and John have talked about their philosophy and how they approach a team building and how they prioritize pass rush second. Like this is their words. Quarterback, pass rush. That's how they approach team building.
And then guys who score touchdowns.
And then guys who score touchdowns.
Right?
Offensive line, where are they in the scheme of things?
I don't.
They're not there. They try to just get by with offensive linemen that they get later rounds. Like, enough with that ish. Like, this is not new. This has been the philosophy of legendary Hall of Fame coaches and football teams throughout the history of the NFL. You need the best freaking quarterback you can find, obviously, and you don't want to try to settle without it. But if you are going to have a quarterback that's not elite, and even if you freaking do, you need the best offensive line you could possibly put together to protect them and to help in your run game. It's pretty simple football, and the fact that Kyle's trying to go against the grain and John is going against the grain with this is one of the most frustrating things about this front office.
Also, what I don't understand, like they put so many resources into weapons and not the offensive line. Like, weapons are secondary in my opinion, and they're easier to find. A good offensive line is really hard to put together, and a good offensive lineman is hard to find and develop. And when you find one, you keep them. But with weapons, I mean, look at the Bills. A big case for Josh Allen's MVP candidacy is that he doesn't have any all pros around him. True, but he's got like 4 good wide receivers. He's got 2 good tight ends. He's got like 3 good running backs. In a lot of ways, I'd rather have all of that than the highest paid running back and 2 of the highest paid wide receivers and the highest paid tight end. Like, it's good to have 1 or 2 of those guys, maybe 1, but you could get weapons. The Bills got weapons easily. They added Amari Cooper midseason just in case.
Yeah.
And they don't really need him. I don't understand.
It's funny because, like, what's the expression, the oldest expression in football? The game is won in the trenches, right? What are the worst 2 positions on the 49ers this year?
O-line, D-line.
The trenches. Like, it's
O-line, D-line.
I mean, it doesn't make sense.
And then you look at Adam Peters, who went to Washington and turned them from a 4-win team to a 12-win team. All he did was he added at least 2 starters in the offensive line in free agency, added a bunch of defensive linemen in free agency. Like, now they're pretty good in the trenches over there in Washington.
It's the key, and it's basic. It's simple. I mean, football at its core is just beating the man in front of you, and you need dudes to do it, man. It's not complex. But for some reason, the 49ers are trying to do things differently. And, we'll see if it ever works out.
Well, also, like, what's tough about the Niners is they sort of get it in the sense of they paid Javon Hargrave. It's just that the move is to, like, not miss on Javon Kinlaw. Like, the Eagles don't have to pay their defensive linemen because they keep drafting and hitting. Whereas the Niners, I mean, they haven't drafted a good defensive tackle yet. Right. No, excuse me, they drafted DJ Jones. But other than that, they inherited DeForest Buckner and Eric Armstead and really benefited from them, in particular Armstead, for a long time. And now Malik Collins, Jordan Elliott, those guys are journeymen. You got nothing at D tackle. So they need to add multiple D tackles this year and a linebacker.
And what's frustrating is most fans, myself included, have been screaming trenches for this is the 3rd year straight where I've been screaming it. Like, they gotta go O-line. They gotta go. Like last year,
You know how many defensive linemen they've drafted the last 2 years?
None last year.
One.
Who
Beal,
was the
2 years ago.
Yeah, Bill. Yeah, the last year going in the draft, my priorities, I had them listed out: offensive line and D tackle, and they got neither.
They haven't drafted a D tackle in 3 years.
And I don't know. Are they scared because they miss on them? Is that what's going on?
Yeah, they're awful at drafting defense. That might be their worst position. They've never tried to draft a center on this team since with John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan. They got a good guard. They have not drafted a good offensive tackle. Depending on how you feel about the McTackles they've drafted, and defensive tackle has been awful. Solomon Thomas, Javon Kinlaw.
Well, they got the 11th draft pick overall this year. There's going to be some really good defensive tackles and some offensive linemen available, and they're going to have to figure it out and pull the trigger, and hopefully they don't get scared and draft a running back.
Yeah, 11 is an interesting spot. It seems like a little high to draft a guard, which is they definitely need a left guard.
Hell, they need
might
a tackle
be a little
too.
low to take a truly great Trent Williams style offensive tackle, and I don't get the feeling there is one of those in this draft. I don't know.
They're going to get a pass rusher, aren't they?
See, that's the thing. Like they could get the best pass rusher, and that'd be great. But again, if you can't stop the run, which they can't, when are you rushing the quarterback? Like you got to go to Philly and beat Philly in the playoffs again. And you haven't beaten this version of Philly, the one with Saquon Barkley. You haven't beaten this version of Philly. It's all about stopping the run. The Rams are the best pass rush. They just got smoked. Yeah. And if you can't stop the run, I mean, Jalen Hurts, you can sack him 7 times and lose. Who cares? That just happened.
And the best thing you can do, honestly, the best thing you can do for your pass rush is get Nick Bosa, somebody on the inside that's a problem. You know what I'm saying? And I like Leonard Floyd too. I actually think Leonard Floyd's decent. They need more depth there, obviously, or maybe somebody that could surpass him. But the best thing you could do for Leonard Floyd and Nick Bosa is get them some dudes in the middle that are our problem.
I mean, really, all up and down the middle of the Niners defense. D tackle, linebacker, safety. You could be losing Greenlaw. It could be losing Hufanga. Right now, you got nothing at D tackle. You got Fred Warner. You got Malik Mustafa. That's the middle of your defense. Yeah. That's it. So 2 D tackles, 2 linebackers, and a safety, unless you think Jair Brown is going to bounce back. He might. I'm not giving up on him, but question mark there. You got 2 guys you like in the middle of your defense. Yikes.
They got to figure out that the linebacker one's a big one because Greenlaw is a difference maker for the 49ers. And if they lose him, or I don't even know, even if they sign him, if he's going to be able to stay healthy, like that's a big problem for the 49ers. And especially if you don't have defensive tackles in front of those linebackers, that's even a bigger problem because now you're asking Fred Warner to come up and be a run stopper, which he's really not. So, I mean, 49ers need a center, no freaking question. And I don't know where they're going to get that from. Maybe it's Hennessy on the team. I don't know. Maybe he's the guy. Maybe that's who they think he is. I don't know if he is or not. But they need defensive tackles. They need a middle linebacker. Yes.
They need a center. They need a guard. Yep. Their left tackle is going to be 37 this year and just missed 7 games. They need a tackle.
They need a tackle too. Yeah. Colton McKivitz.
Defensive tackle. They need a linebacker. They need a safety. I mean, good God.
They need everything. Your most reliable offensive lineman right now is Don Pooney, which is great, but like you can't rely on Trent. Honestly, like Trent's one of the best ever to do it, Hall of Famer. But can you really rely on him? And for how many games?
And you know why the Niners need so many things? I don't know if people think about it, and I think it was one of their biggest sins as a franchise under Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch, and people kind of swept it under the rug because, yeah, they traded 3 firsts and a third for Trey Lance and got Malik Mustafa. I don't know if people understand that. They essentially traded Trey Lance to the Cowboys for 1 pick, which they used on Malik Mustafa. So 3 years worth of, he's a good player, man. I like him. 3 years worth of first and a third on a good young safety. That's a problem. And those could have been 3 Pro Bowlers plus a nice solid player. And instead they got Malik Mustafa. So yeah, that's catching up to him.
Yeah, it's a problem.